Welcome in, ladies and gentlemen, boys and girls, RFQ Refugees podcast. Ted here, John here. Hopefully everything is coming through. We are still trying to work through our internet connections and everything and trying to make sure we put together a good product for you, because that's ultimately what we want. So hopefully everything is coming through. Hopefully you guys are seeing us. Hopefully you are hearing us as we talk DC United, the U.S. Men's national team, Washington Spirit, U.S. women's team, whatever comes our fancy. But I think we'll talk mostly about DC. John, how are you doing, my friend?
I'm great, Ted. How are you doing?
I'm doing great. I am 100% ready to talk some soccer. DC had a win, an actual win we can actually talk about, which I think will be fun. We also had Loudoun United starting off their game, getting their first road draw, I think. So, yeah, it was some fun. The soccer's back, man. It's going to start coming like hot and heavy. There's going to be a lot of soccer to talk about.
Some might say too much. We would not agree with that.
We would not agree. Bobby Boswell, you are wrong, my friend. You are absolutely wrong, my friend. There is never enough soccer. Never enough soccer. But yeah. So should we just get into it? Should we just talk about DC United's first win? Right. That's all we have to say. Right. They won a game. They won a game of soccer. It happened. Right, John? That's all we got to say. We don't need to talk about anything else.
It was extremely ugly.
It was ugly.
It was very bad. I didn't have to watch it until today. So I had the option to just never see it, but I chose to see it. And I wish I didn't.
Yeah, it was not pretty. It was absolutely not pretty. The first half was terrible. They played probably the worst soccer I've seen this team play in a long time. They were completely flat. I don't know what Ben Olsen exactly sees as Julian Gressel as a center attacking midfielder. I know I disputed that he was playing center attacking midfielder in the beginning, but I'm not going to deny it at this point. He is playing center attacking midfielder. It's happening, and it's pretty bad. Pretty bad. He looked especially bad. This is probably the worst game I've seen him play. I think he got redeemed a little bit in the last game against Colorado, because he was a little more. He got the corner kick and the assist and everything. But this game he was very, very bad. And it was not. It was just. It's very clear he's not a center midfielder. He was misplaying passes. I'm pretty sure on the first goal he was the one who first played that really bad square pass that I think Robinson from Miami jumped on. Right? Am I correct in remembering that?
I think you are. That was before Robinson was exploded and taken out of the game. But yes, he was involved in that particular component.
He was, and it I don't know. I don't know what Ben sees in it. I don't know what Ben really understands in it, and really, I don't really get it. Why he thinks that's a smart move to play. He's a winger. He's always been a winger. Yeah, and so it was looking really bad. It was looking like this game was going to kind of come undone for DC. There wasn't a whole lot of action. Miami was having all the play. They of course get the first goal, and we're going to have to live with that. Every time MLS does one of those little highlight reels where they show every team's first goal, we're going to have to live with that, I think. And that goal happened, and it was really bad. It was also bad, I think, on the defensive end. Brilliant, left Rodolfo Pizarro, and they're paying him a lot of money, but they're certainly not paying him a lot to. He should score that goal. Pretty much anybody should score that goal from how close he was up front. And then you go into halftime. I'm down on this team. I'm ready to start throwing people under the bus. We looked terrible. We looked like there was no advancement. We were letting Miami get away with the game. Second half opens up. I think DC started a little more, maybe had a little bit more energy, as you would expect coming out of this game. Maybe generated a few chances. And then there was Gressel looked like he had a breakaway. Somehow, I believe it was, I'm trying to remember who the person was. It was Torres. Torres who appears to handle the ball, gets the ball away. Miami goes back and scores. And at that point, I'm about ready actually to turn off the game. I'm like, this is done. This is over. And then VAR happens, and they see that Torres handles the ball. The referee judges that he stops a denial of an obvious goal scoring opportunity, red cards Pizarro, disallows the goal. So now DC United is up one. Now DC is still down 1-0, and they're a man up. But even then, I was like, well, we've been here before. We've been here. We were here with 9 men in Cincinnati, and we still couldn't figure out a way to score. And then I think it was about 2 minutes later, Flores draws a penalty kick, and Assad steps up and scores, which was pretty cool to see. Good to see him get back on the score sheet. And then they win a free kick. Flores plays an excellent ball off the post, and Brilliant collects it. So yeah, and it was a good goal. It was a pretty fantastic goal. But that's kind of that was kind of a weird game, a very, very weird game. John, you've been really quiet now. I need you to talk, please. I need you to give me your thoughts on the game.
Yeah, no, it was bad. It wasn't good. It was the opposite of good. It was bad. It was one of those times where you get 3 points and you're like, well, that's good, I guess. That's good, I guess. Let's no one think this means that we're in a good place. The team relied on having an extra man to get that opportunity for a lead. That they didn't play well up a man, but that's general. I think that's pretty typical of a DC United team since we've been following. Miami continued to push the game down a man, making subs to continue to try to score goals. The defense is particularly in the first half, was extremely uncertain. They looked as uncertain as they did in the previous week, with bad clearances, with the lack of cohesiveness that we've used to seeing with this team. We didn't see it. We haven't seen it. That's worrying to me. And now we're also down Joseph Mora. We're also down Ola Kamara. Probably the biggest things to come out of this game are those things. We talked previously. Everyone has talked previously, not just us. We'll pretend it's just us, though. RFK refugees exclusively have talked to you about how little depth there is up front and on the wings, and on wing backside. And look what happened. In one game, we have been felled in 2 positions at once. Ola Kamara, probably, I would say maybe the more irreplaceable of the two. Eric Sorga did not impress me much in his 80 minutes of play, 75 minutes of play. I didn't see a lot of great instincts, which is not something you would imagine from a guy who had scored so many goals in a very inferior league. You would hope maybe that would translate a little bit.
I
disagree.
I will defend Sorga a little bit. I mean, this is probably the highest level. I mean, the Estonian league is obviously not a beacon of great soccer. That I'm not saying anything like that, but I think maybe he probably wasn't expecting to come into this game or play in this game. He gets thrown in the situation. The team's down a goal. He got some breakaways and he had some good opportunities. There were some good things that I felt over those I guess 60, 70 minutes he played. Obviously he missed 2 breakaway chances that if he puts away a goal, maybe we're having suddenly a different discussion. I thought the first one, I thought he was fouled. It looked to me like it was a behind the back tackle. But still, you expect, your striker to, there's always that second motion where you see the goal, all right, now have the shot. And he's waiting. No, I want it to be perfect. And, that's the type of thing that Ola Kamara brings to this team, is that he's a guy who's going to, if he sees an opportunity, he's going to take that shot. And we've had strikers like that in the past where they have not taken the opportunity when they've had it. Joseph Nguyen is one that comes to mind. He was always a player who would get himself in good spaces, but when it come to actually shoot the ball and put the ball in the back of the net, he wouldn't do it. So that I think was a little troubling. I thought he still has good movements. I think he's getting in the right spaces. It's just a matter of can he actually put the ball and finish. And he's only 20 years old. He's still a very, very young player. I think if I'm DC though, I'm starting to look for other options. Depending, we haven't heard. I haven't checked. We haven't heard if Ola Kamara.
No word out yet.
No word out yet.
All those 2 things being true, he is young and he has a hesitancy to shoot as a forward. Those 2 things suck, particularly because now he's probably going to be our starting forward here now. Granted, it's possible that Ola Kamara was holding the back of his hamstring and had to come out in the 15th minute, but is fine and will be playing next game, starting and playing 90 minutes. That's possible, but very unlikely. I would bet a lot of money, you're going to be looking at an Eric Sorga starting next week. Even if he wasn't ready to come in last week, I hope he's ready to come in this week because now he's going to be counted on. We had a replacement at left back that was a little bit better. O'Neal Fisher played well for his probably 50, 60 minutes. A little bit of rust, but overall, a much smaller step down from the starter to the bench in this case, at least my perspective. It's great to see him play. I think he's just like Joseph Mora, or just like Eric Sorga. I believe we're going to now see him start because there's no depth at all at the left back position. So the depth is being tested in week 3, which is seemingly always the way that DC United gets dealt these injuries. They come in bunches and they come early. Also, Joseph Mora should just never play any team from Florida because clearly he's said, like Ted, he has offended the state and all of the players hate him and they're targeting him. That's the only thing that could make this is 3. This is 3 times in 2 years that he has gotten injured playing a Florida team.
Well, it's also I wouldn't say maybe I would hope he hasn't offended the entire state of Florida. I agree. I think it's good to see Fisher get out there. Good to see him play. Good to see Odi Ostum get out there and get some minutes as well. I think losing Mora is big, and he's a very, very concerning injury for this team. And I have a lot of concerns about Ola Kamara, and so here's the thing. I guess I haven't really. I've been dialed in, but maybe I haven't been as dialed in as I should have. So I'm in my fantasy league, and someone tweets out they took Eric Sogra, and I message him. I'm like, "What are you doing? That doesn't make any sense. Like, why are you taking that player to play on your fantasy team?" And he says, well, apparently there's rumors that Ola has an injury. So I scoured Golf's blog. I scoured Pablo. Pablo's on vacation. And but apparently this came from ABC7, which said that Ola Kamara left with a hamstring injury. And this comes down to maybe they thought it wasn't that bad, or that he had sort of left practice and that maybe it wasn't a hamstring injury. Maybe it wasn't bad, I'm like, oh, it's nonsense, that's pure conjecture. I'm sure he's okay. That he's starting, he's playing, he's out there starting. DC wouldn't throw him out there if he wasn't ready.
Yeah, they would right now.
yeah, exactly. And that's the thing. It's like they throw him out right now because they don't have any other better options, and then he pulls his hamstring and now he's out. And it just gets down. It just gets down to this team. It's like we have this time and time again. I think I tweeted out like MLS culture, the whole MLS culture meme or phrase has kind of been going around Twitter. I said MLS culture is DC like going into a season with a paper thin lineup and suffering 3 significant injuries before the season starts. Some of them season ending apparently. And it's I guess there's bad luck and then there's kind of making your own luck. Every team goes through injuries. Right now, the only 2 teams that aren't injured are Minnesota and San Jose. And Minnesota is running rampant right now. They absolutely pasted San Jose last week. So it becomes a question, what's the deal here? Why, this is causing me, I've always held up Dave Casper as one of the better GMs in the league and how he understands the rules and his ability. He's still very, very good at that. But I'm looking at this and I'm like, we really can't find any other players. We can't bring in, were we waiting? Is it just, not, getting the deal done?
Quincy is literally walking around the concourse at the previous game. And if we're talking about, think about the NBA, like we need players on 10-day contracts here. We need a literal body in practice and now on the bench and on the 18. Just find a guy. We need a guy. Get a guy.
Yeah.
He lives locally. We know you can find him on YouTube anytime. He's available.
Just get somebody. Honestly, my vote is for CJ Sapong, as you guys know. I think go get him, sign him to a contract, have him and Kamara compete out for that spot. Especially, I think a lot of it's going to depend on what kind of condition Ola Kamara, what kind of injury he sustains. Again, we haven't heard anything yet. It may just be week to week thing. They pulled him out as a precautionary reason early season, just get him out there. But yeah, I'm thinking he might be done for a bit. My guess is. At the very, my fear is that it's like a month, like he's going to be out for like 3 to 4 weeks or something like that.
Cool.
Yeah.
That would be very cool.
Yeah. And, and you got to.
Listen, Ben has said the team is going to look entirely different in May and summer. And I would hope so. I would hope so that would be the case because right now as everyone said before the season started, this is an incomplete roster. And who would have thought that the areas that were least complete will be the areas that were hit hardest? I don't know. Everybody. That's just the way it always goes. Injuries seek out your weak point somehow magically. It seems to always go that way. So we're in the spot we are because, like you said, we put ourselves there. The team put themselves there. They got what they deserved. Now we have to see where are we going to go from here. We've got a team coming in, or we're going on the road, I believe, right?
Yep, road. It's the road trip now. We've got on the road against Cincy, and then on the road against Philadelphia. That's not going to be an easy game.
Don't like that game.
No,
prefer the first one.
Yeah,
maybe some points there. Maybe no points at the next game. I'm not sure. I want to quickly address a question here on the chat. I think this is Mark Rickling. Is this on Casper or on the budget he's been given as far as putting this team together? I think this is on Casper.
Yeah.
Even on player, there is room that is in this salary cap now, particularly after the CBA signed, where a league average MLS player could be found. I'm not necessarily saying as a backup to Ola Kamara, you need to go on the transfer market, pay a transfer fee, and find somebody. There's money for a player of that fashion. Even if we're talking funny money, they could conceivably get a player utilizing nothing but this sort of artificial currency that buys down contracts. That would be very reasonable for a contract of that size. So, this podcast has, defended that sort of those judgments on the team based on money in the past. I think in this particular case, when you're talking about backup depth, question here. Are you still there?
Yep, we're still here.
Okay.
We lost you for a bit, but it's okay.
Sorry, I'm back. My internet did a thing. Greg Koch has a good question. I want to make sure we get to that. What effect will the coronavirus have on MLS? I think that's a really good question, very timely, considering Italy shutting down all of its sports leagues due to the coronavirus. What effect will it have in MLS? I've talked to people already that are talking about not going to games because they're concerned about being in public and being sort of in a tight space like that. I don't think it will have a big effect on MLS until it has an effect on every league. So maybe that's a bit of a cop out. Like I don't foresee this coming here very soon. It's going to grow, and the media will continue to sort of focus on it. I think maybe more even than they are now. But I don't anticipate, in open air stadiums, there being a super giant risk to people to come to games. But I could be wrong. We could see a lot more tickets available on the secondary market. We could see a lot more empty stands. I know that we had the lowest attendance at a game in Seattle ever.
Yeah.
That happened this past weekend. And they're having a large, as these things go, a larger outbreak of this disease in the Seattle area. So that makes sense, I guess.
Yeah, it's certainly it's affecting a lot of the West Coast areas a lot harder. It started sort of on the West Coast, and it's sort of been spreading East Coast. We're now getting reported cases in Virginia and Maryland. I think it's going to be a question of how much is it starting? How much does it spread in these other areas? I mean, are we reaching the peak where suddenly then it's just going to kind of start to dissipate because they've caught everybody who has the virus, and I think that's going to ultimately determine. I think MLS is monitoring it. I'm sure they're keeping track of it. But at the end of the day, I think MLS is harder hit by this than other sports leagues would be, simply because if you've looked at revenue, a large part of MLS revenue comes from ticket sales. Other sports leagues rely on TV contracts. So if the NHL has to play games behind closed doors, that means that they're going to get that many more people watching it on TV. Now, maybe that happens with MLS. Maybe games in MLS behind closed doors generate a whole huge TV audience because everybody that would have been in the stadium is now watching it from home.
Or podcast audience. Also, we got to think about that angle.
Yeah, the podcast audience, exactly. So, I mean, that could be a change. But I think that is why MLS, I think other teams, you're going to see a lot of other teams start playing games with fewer attendances or maybe even closing doors. particularly games out in the West Coast. I could see MLS either canceling games and pushing games later, because that ticket revenue is so very, very important to them. More important than a lot of these other sports leagues. A lot of the other sports leagues rely a lot more on TV money. So it might not look good for a couple games, but they know they're gonna get people watching, because people want to watch the Pittsburgh Penguins. People want to watch the Los Angeles Lakers. And I think that's sort of the difference. I know I just said Pittsburgh Penguins on a DC radio. Bad Ted. I know there are going to be some people that are going to mention that. People are going to watch the Washington Capitals, though. People are going to watch the DC Defenders if they have to play in front of closed doors. So that I think is going to play a large role in sort of DC. Unfortunately, in DC's MLS's thinking. Now, obviously, if it gets to a point where it's like it's a full spread, pandemic, then you're going to see them say, no, we need to shut the doors. Especially if every other sports league is doing it. They're going to start shutting their doors too, because no one wants to be the sports league that looks bad,
right.
PR-wise.
LeBron said he wouldn't play in front of an empty stadium. So we'll see if that actually comes to fruition. I think that he will.
Yeah.
I think that the league will be like, no, you're gonna. It's fine.
Yeah. Hey, people just watch them on TV. I don't understand. Anyway, it's weird though, man. I watch some of those Italy games like in front of empty stadiums. I mean, it's always strange, and it would hurt MLS too because of just how vibrant the crowds can be and how much fun that can be to sort of watch them.
It makes, other than this game, we can probably talk about it for 2 seconds. Other than this LAFC game that you were watching and that I was watching, the crowd has a large factor in how watchable MLS is, because otherwise you're like, well, I'll just watch other better leagues then. like the crowd noise and the intensity that you get, that sells the product on TV. If it's not there, it sucks to watch. So I will not be watching MLS games with no fans in the stands. It will not happen.
I mean, that game was incredible. You're right. It's incredible amounts of fun, and the crowd was into it. So that's going to make you into it. And yeah, I agree with you. I think it was crowds play such a role. It's how the league has grown too, how it's become a more watchable product. It's why TV ratings, I think, have gone up. It kind of gives that extra, sense of atmosphere. What are the, they do like those crowd shots at the beginning of the game. Imagine playing like a MLS game in front of an empty stadium, and they're just doing like shots of just like empty seats or something like that. It's going to be terrible.
The bummer from Fred Brillant, who got nominated for Goal of the Week. Unfortunately, he will be losing decisively. If Jacob Glesnes, or however you pronounce his name, doesn't win by 95%, we should just shut down fan voting.
Yeah.
If somehow you have not seen these goals, do so. Go on the internet. Carlos Vela scored one at the onset. I was like, oh dang, Goal of the Week, great goal. And then goal from 75 yards into the, and two, as you watch that, in the first replay, I was like, that goalie was rooted. He didn't think he was going to shoot from there. That goalie mistake. And then they show you the behind the back shot, and that ball is running the entire time. The goalie, it is not often that a shot from like 45 yards, you say the goalie had no chance, but he kind of didn't have a chance. The ball was ridiculous. Oh, so good. So good.
And that's been kind of the statement of this league. There are so many goals now. Now, I've been a watcher of this league for a long time, and I just remember, like, when there were like 10, 12 teams, there weren't as many games. I would watch DC, I would watch LA. They would usually be pretty good, but it was like that was it. That was all that was entertaining. Watching like Columbus versus New England was a friggin' drag to get through. I remember my dad and I were sitting watching a game, and we're like, this is awful. You're watching like two teams like hack at a soccer ball. And then we watched DC, and they would play fluid passing soccer with Gomez and Moreno and Esky. And it was literally, it was so crazy how bad. Now it's like, I turn on a game between Atlanta and Cincinnati, and yeah, Atlanta's playing good. And then Kubo steps up and drills a shot into the net. And it's crazy that he has that much space. And I'm sure even he was kind of like, wait a minute, you're going to give me this? Okay, I'll take that. And he drills a shot. There were so many goals that would have been goals of the week that now it's like, I don't know, man. It's hard. It's hard. It's
Good
hard.
problem to have.
What's that?
Sure. Good problem to have.
Oh, yeah.
Sure.
It's entertainment. And I think there was even a guy on, I think it was like BR Football was saying like, look, like, was this like, when I'm watching MLS, am I watching Real Madrid versus Barcelona? But I mean, the Real Madrid Barcelona game wasn't that good. It was good technical soccer, but it wasn't fun or entertaining. This is fun and entertaining, and I enjoyed it. So, I think that's That's the key thing. MLS is getting fun. This has actually been probably one of the more fun opening weeks I can remember, just in pure entertainment quality and goals and everything. There's still the stinkers. There's still the Orlando versus Colorados of the world where it's 1-0 and literally it's like the most boring thing you ever watch. But then you watch like, Houston versus SKC, and I see Alan Pulido turn on like a half volley or I guess a semi-half volley and like shoot the ball in the back of the net. And it was a fantastic finish. And it's just like there's the quality and the amount of spending in this league on particularly on the attacking talent. Now the defending talent's another question. And I wonder if MLS is really going to keep encouraging because, the defending quality of this league is not great. There's a reason Brilliant's getting a new contract and still here because he's a competent MLS defender.
Moneyball.
Yeah, exactly. You pray you have a competent enough defense that you can sort of plug the holes offensively. But, it's been fun. It's been absolutely fun to watch MLS. So, let's talk a little bit. Since I mentioned Cincinnati, let's talk a little bit about the game. I've had the preview up there, and we haven't really said much about it. This is a game probably we marked down as a win, and I was kind of thinking that after Cincy's first game, they didn't look too good. Watched them against Atlanta, and they were down to Atlanta, which wasn't really surprising. Again, Atlanta's also
even Joseph Martinez less Atlanta. They're still a very dangerous and talented team.
They still have Barco and Ezekiel Barco and Pity Martinez. So that's more talent than most teams have, like even on their roster when they're fully healthy. So they're still a good team. They're still a dangerous team, and they'll be solving that offensive issue pretty quickly with somebody. It's not going to be what they have right now. But they were pretty much in control of that game. And then, Cincy kind of didn't back down. So they're dealing with a lot. We're going to have an interview tomorrow with a Cincy correspondent from Cincy. I think it's Cincy Soccer Talk. I think we've had them on in the past. So we're going to have them on again and kind of go through a little bit about Cincy. So stay tuned tomorrow. I guess Wednesday is when we'll release that. But they did not really back down. The new guy, the Japanese striker, Kubo, had a really nice strike and a really nice goal. But they're still Cincy, and this is a game. Only thing I'm hopeful from the Miami game. They got to win, and I'm like, all right, can we build at least some momentum? I don't know who's starting up top. But can we get at least a little bit of, momentum? It would have been nice if we have gotten a third goal. One of the Sorga breakaways had gone in. But this is a game you got to walk in and you got to think 3 points. I got to be honest. Going up against Cincy, they're still a mess. They still don't have a coach. They're apparently got 20 or 30 calls from a coach. I'm assuming those are like, college coaches or, D3 coaches or Eric Ronaldo, probably one of the three there, calling to see what about the job. So, but they still don't have a coach. They're still dealing with an interim situation.
Yohan Dame is the interim coach. I would say with our starting forward in play, I would have said maybe, it's one position, whatever. Maybe we obviously scored 2 goals without him, but I am concerned. I am whelmed. I don't think this is going to be a walk. It was funny too, before the turnaround in the second half, like the announcers on TUDN were like, yeah, DC United was probably looking at that calendar and they were looking at those first 2 games, and Colorado at home. They're looking at this game, looking at Miami at home. That's 6 points. Easy walk. Let's go. And then Cincinnati on the road, that's 9. And then, luckily, magically, we reached into a magic sack and pulled 3 points out. But in general, his point is a good one. Like we're not quite hitting it all cylinders yet, and that's the understatement of the universe. So it would not be. Would you be surprised if we go on the road and don't get any points? I don't think I would be
surprised. No, I really wouldn't. I could see Cincy. I could see Cincy looking at this game as here's a chance for us to sort of turn the tables. Here's a team that didn't play really well in their home opener, still trying to figure things out. In a sense though, that does make DC dangerous because you don't have tape, I guess you can go on, of them playing well because they haven't played well.
That hasn't happened yet. I like that. That is a very optimistic way of looking at that. I like that.
So maybe this is the game they put it all together. I think Flores is starting to find it. I think he was a little bit better, than he was in the Cincy game. He obviously drew the penalty, of course, and then he also drew the The free kick, excellent free kick. I really wish that had gone in. Some people were saying, well, I think Robles had it covered. You're probably right, but I wanted him to score that, I think, and I wanted him to do that. Yeah, I think we're going to go ahead and we're just going to open up the phone lines right now. 202-905-0454. Call in. We have our producer on the line, producer Brian, who many of y'all met at the live stream home opener. He is here. He is taking your calls, and he'll send you in. So yeah, I guess, do we want to talk Loudoun? We didn't get to talk Loudoun. Yeah, let's talk Loudoun. Let's talk about maybe some slightly happier things.
Yeah, I watched this game live, so that was different for me.
did too.
I wasn't watching it today, multiple days later. An interesting game overall. I think that they were Coach Martin will be happy about the defense. The defense was the problem last year, I think, particularly late defense. So that sort of almost bit them here at the end. I think that they almost conceded twice in the last 5 minutes, which is when they gave up the majority of their goals last year. But overall, the young DC United players were exciting. They were as advertised. No Griffin Yao, obviously, he was on the 18, but Kevin Paredes came off the bench after being injured. Ted DiPietro was amazing. He came on in at halftime for Elvis Amo, and he turned the game around. Really, I mean, we've talked about him now for a little while. He is definitely a player that I think will excel in Loudoun this year, getting more and more opportunities. He is a young player. I think he's 17, maybe 18, but he is absolutely one to watch overall. New striker, or not new, but Alioune Nador played. He played 5 or 6 games, or scored 5 or 6 goals last year towards the end of the year. Was not clinical whatsoever. Had probably 3 or 4 chances to score. Would make the wrong choice. So if there was a pass to be made, he would shoot, and if he should have shot, he passed, and that happened a couple times. I think that's rust. I think it's not trusting your teammates yet because it's a new season. But overall, for a team that struggled early last year as they were starting 19,000 games in a row on the road because of Sager Field not being finished, I think it's an encouraging point against Philly Union 2 side. Colin Miller, go ahead.
I was just going to say, I just think it's what's really positive and why you should be watching these games if you're a DC fan is how good all of the DC Academy players look. There isn't one guy in there that you're like, oh, he's not ready yet. He should be in the academy or he should go to college. All the guys that they're bringing in are players that conceivably you could see playing for DC in a couple years. Some even less than that. I think Kevin Paredes is one that I think we're going to see. Griffin Yao, I don't remember much from him. Did he play? Was he in this game?
He was on the bench. He was on the bench. He was on the 18 for DC.
And interesting thing. I don't think there are any. I looked quickly at the roster, so I might have missed something, but I don't think there are any DC guys on the Olympic roster. So these are guys that I would be shocked if some of the guys like Griffin Yao, Kevin Paredes didn't. I think one player I'm pretty sure was in the U.S. camp. So very surprising he wasn't, I guess, called in. But that could be a case of DC saying, nope, we want to keep him here. You want to, and they tell the player, look, I know you want to, maybe compete for the Olympics, but your best opportunity is to be here and to be competing for minutes with us. So, yeah.
If you're looking at that Loudoun side that started here, players that are actual prospects with DC United: Adam Lundgaard, Alex Saravia, Kevin Paredes, Jeremy Garay, Moses Nyman, Ted DiPietro, Brandon Williamson, former academy player, and Jacob Green on the bench. Those are all players that the team believes that could be on the big roster sometime soon. This is a dramatic departure from the Loudoun United team of last year. This is definitely Ryan Martin. Colin Martin playing for San Diego Loyal, I believe.
Yep.
But Ryan Martin, the coach of Loudoun, not the player for San Diego Loyal, putting his stamp on the team, actually crafting a roster that really gives opportunity to the young DC United players that he wants to play and he wants to get on the field. So early season was not a riveting watch. Certainly they're going to improve. They have an off week coming up, which sucks, I think, for everybody. As far as like getting in the groove, they have a bye week this next week, and then they travel, I believe, to Atlanta United 2, getting another dose of MLS 2 sides coming up. So
John,
overall pretty positive though.
John, I have a quandary for you. All right, let's assume things don't go well this year for DC. DC decides that, you know what, enough's enough. Olsen, Thanks, but no thanks. You're out. Would you want Ryan? Would you want them? Would you want Ryan Martin as the coach, or would you want them to go out and find somebody
If he got fired midseason,
midseason?
I'd go Ryan Martin.
You
I
wouldn't
would
go
want,
Chad Ashton? Come on, no. Just
No, I'm sorry, Chad. I'm always the bridesmaid, never the bride in this case. I would say, in this fantasy universe, if we made a change mid-season, that we were probably tanking so bad in the table that playoffs weren't looking serious, which would mean I'd want a coach who knows the youth that we would actually give opportunities to and then the next year I would say probably want to go out and really make a splash, considering how long we've been sort of in the Ben Olsen universe and trying to expand beyond that potentially. But that's my thought.
it would be really tough for me because I would look at that. I look at a hire like Ryan Martin. I would say, I look at the way what I guess so amazed me about that sort of that first game, and I know that Ben didn't have the full lineup for a lot of the preseason, but that team looked like they were at least very much more familiar with each other. And he's also dealing with a lot of academy guys who sort of played with each other. I mean, I get all those stipulations, but I mean, if we're comparing just which team looked like they had clearly played together and were on the same page and playing in the correct positions, I would go Loudoun United over DC. I thought they had players look like they were in the proper positions. Was it perfect? No. But they were even playing a style that I wish DC would play. I guess what frustrated me so much about this, about the Inter Miami game, was just how slow we looked. We didn't look like we had any urgency. We had any type of, it was clear Miami was going to sit back and counter. That was very clear, but it was a lot of slow passing, slow moving. And I'm like, that style's not going to work for this team. This team's going to win if they attack, and they attack quickly, and they press, and they win the ball, and they force, odd man opportunities on the other end. And we thought we were getting that when they played against Philly. That's what I thought the type of team we're getting, and we're not getting that yet. And it seems to me like Olsen's kind of reverting back to sort of slow possession style buildup. And you can do that if you have the right players. I'm not sure this team is built to do that. So maybe I would like a guy to come in who has an understanding of the youth system, give opportunities for guys like Griffin Yao. And, maybe if he does well enough, you give him the head coaching job, and you trust that, you're putting a guy in there. I mean, he's not just a he's not just a DC Academy director becoming a coach. He served as an assistant in FC Cincinnati. He served as assistants elsewhere. So, I mean, I think it would not be a crazy hire. Now, also, I do maybe want to see them splash the cash a little bit. Why not? But it'd be hard. It'd be difficult.
Yeah. Honestly, I'm hoping that the real story here is we figure out how to put it together here pretty soon.
Yeah. I think we all want that. I'm throwing out hypotheticals.
Sure.
Hypotheticals.
I honestly think that if these injuries aren't serious, which I think that they will be, if somehow they aren't, then I think we'll get there. I think we've had two games at home against opponents that we were looking to boss that did not present to us the way I think that we thought they were going to. And I don't know how the weather was like this weekend, but the home opener was windy as shit, and it was really, really bad. It was cold. It was the coldest day of the year so far. So that was, I'm just trying to think like optimal conditions for good soccer have not been met. Hopefully somehow we have an unseasonably warm day in Cincinnati, so we can remove that excuse, and this team can finally just put at least 45 minutes of cohesive attacking soccer together so that we can be calm. But I don't think it, do we want we can roll right from that to sort of our predictions about if that's going to happen or not. I think probably not.
I want to believe that I want to believe this team can put it together. I don't want to lose to Cincinnati. I think that would just be, we would become the butt of every joke in this league. I mean, there are always those marquee losses. I mean, I think we're learning that Colorado's probably better than we thought they were.
Yep.
And I think that loss is not going to look as bad as it did. I think Colorado's going to be right in the middle of the table competing. And in a Western Conference too, where you have LAFC and Seattle and kind of everyone else in a way. LA doesn't look that good. They're still trying to figure out how to use Chicharito.
How about that one?
What's that?
But how about that one?
Yeah. I can't see it looks good with Alan Pulido, but I think, Colorado's kind of situating themselves in there. As far as DC, I would love for them to come in and this would be the game they would sort of show, maybe, I don't know, maybe getting out of DC might be a good thing for them. I don't know. I don't know. We haven't really seen. There's always a question when foreign players come in, you got to play on turf, and this game's going to be on turf, and not good turf. It's certainly not the worst, but it's not great. So I'll be curious to see how Flores handles that. I guess what I'm looking out of this game is the same thing I'm looking out of the last game. I want to see more cohesion. I want to see this team actually be on the same page and generate chances and do all those things that, I think they can still do. I still believe this is a talented team. I think right now they are being mismanaged by Ben. I hope to God we see Gressel outright. Please just stop this. He is such a good right-sided player, and I get that, maybe he wanted to play centrally. Maybe that was part of the deal. I hope after this game, Ben sat down with him and said, look, Julian, we love you, but you're great on the right side. You're excellent on the right side. We need you on that right side. Because, you see some of those sort of sharp dribbling and passing through traffic from Flores, and I think he'd be much more suited to that position. So I'll be watching that next game. I'm going to be positive. I'm going to go 1-0 victory. I don't know. Call me crazy. I can't help but I have to be positive until it becomes so overwhelmingly negative that I have to accept.
Did we have a 2-man advantage at the end of last season when we drew them 0-0 at home, or was it 1-man advantage?
It was a 2-man advantage. Yeah.
Ugh. All right, so we got
different teams.
Sure, but let's hope for 11 players on the field the whole time.
Yeah. Yes.
A couple comments on Twitter I want to make sure we get through. At DC Ulysses says, "You didn't ask, but my 2 cents is that Felipe was the man of the match, the true man of the match. He got into it with Miami, showed his teammates that this was a fight, and provided the spark that led to the W. And I'm also never going to cheer a red card again because DCU plays better offense against 11 players." That second tweet for sure true. Felipe is Ben Olsen's got to love Felipe, right? Like he is piss and vinegar all the time. He is going to mix it up. He understands the value of sort of playing with the supporters, which I think is a lost art sometimes with some players. And yeah, he's not really been he's not stood out to me so far in 180 minutes overall. But then again, like I think that sometimes it's hard for a player in the defensive midfield to really, really stand out like that. I'm happy. I'm happy he's on the team. I think that, I don't know. It's good. I'm glad.
He plays with an energy and a passion right now. I mean, him going to the fans, he plays. It's clear his charm offensive, as we've talked about before, has worked. But this was definitely a game where we saw the Felipe everybody hates, the play acting, the players being like, come on, and like picking him up off the ground. And trying to get him to get up and to stop play acting. This is like the first game for DC where we've sort of seen that sort of play acting that he does. So he's got a reputation for it. He is who he is. I think he has settled himself in well to this team. I'd like to see this team, try to see if they can get Russell Canals and Moreno back into that combination. But right now, I think, you've got such a shortage at defense that Russell Canals is there. And that's kind of the way it is. So, which is a little sad, but Russell Canals is also struggling a little bit at right back. I think he has not looked as strong.
That man, he is not very good at right back. So
well, it's strange because he was so good last year. He was a reason when DC moved him to right back. That's when we started to not only keep teams off the scoreboard, but started to actually win games.
Because he wasn't Leo Hara. Who was just a complete sieve. So I think at best he strikes as a league average right back for an MLS. I think he is the drop off from his positional situation to the middle of the field is dramatic in my mind. But we'll get plenty of opportunity to verify that here because he's not going anywhere. He is stapled to right back no matter what happens. So
yeah, I mean maybe Fisher Odiastum, maybe Mora's injury isn't as bad and he gets back and DC gets that speed, that sort of Mora Fisher combination we saw in 2018. That was so good.
At DCU 2020 says, I'm optimistic about Flores. He earned the foul that became Assad's penalty and whose free kick hit the post that Briand then put in. Also, Sorga, who worked hard but needs time for chemistry. I am concerned about Gressel, though. Bad passes and some weak defending. What do you think?
I mean, I think he played the center attacking role, so I don't think defense is necessarily his first responsibility, but just bad dribbling and sort of bad passing, not very tight. And that concerns me on turf because it's not going to be as easy to control the ball as it is on regular grass. I'm very, very concerned. I'm very concerned. I'm not concerned about Gressel because I know, and there's a lot of people, there was some people out there saying, Gressel's awful, Gressel's terrible. I'm not concerned about Gressel as a player. I'm concerned about how he's being used right now because he's not being used properly. And that's something Ben needs to figure out, or someone needs to figure out, or he needs to turn around his play and be the best center attacking midfielder the league's ever seen. I mean, I suppose that's possible, but based on these two games, I don't see it. And I think Ben needs to realize it with Gressel, and someone needs to tell Gressel that he's not a central midfielder. He's a right winger, and he can be very effective in that position. So it's not using his strengths well, and I think that's the biggest problem with Gressel right now.
And the last one, we sort of touched on this already, but I'll make sure I get it out there. At Hoya Nick says, Sorga got mixed reviews from people I talked to. Some liked his footwork. Most agree he lacks pace. What's your opinion? I think we talked about it. I think his unwillingness to get the shot away when potentially the shot is there is a problem for me, at least. I think that's a bad attribute. It's a Connor Doyle-esque attribute for a DC United forward. And I think that it is going to take some time maybe for him to adjust to the pace of the game. He was bamboozled a few times by defenders on Miami, sort of tricked into fouls. They just sort of did the okey doke on him a couple times, and I think he fell for it once or twice. I think in the 83rd minute, he had a hold-up opportunity play, and then he just ended up kicking out at the defender, and who then promptly fell over very easily because he knew what he was doing. So I think there was a little bit of naivete for him in his first game. He's 20, new league, all those disclaimers, yep. But now he's in a position where he's got to make it happen. So let's hope he can make it happen very quickly.
Yeah, hopefully he can. I did want to sort of bring up, there was some sort of Spirit news that came out, and I think we should cover it for sure. That season's coming up. We're definitely going to be talking about them once, games start happening for them. But Shayna Matthews apparently is going on leave or stepping away from soccer to spend more time with her family, which is good. And apparently she's going to take up a designated leave spot, which I think still means she still gets paid.
She's being paid solely out of the discretion of the Spirit. There is currently no maternity or family leave type of policy in place in NWSL. So this is solely coming out of ownership's pocket to, really enforce to her and to the rest of the team and sort of maybe even the league that this is something that needs to be in place. This is what should be happening. And we're going to take the lead and make sure that she's made whole. She is, however, married to an NFL player. So I think she probably could have made it without it, but it is nice that this is an option and this is what they're doing because they're valuing her individually as a person and a player, not just necessarily saying, well, you don't need it, so don't.
Yeah, and it's good. It's really good for the league, and it's really good that they're taking that effort to do that. It makes me positive about the NWSL ownership. I was not a huge fan of the previous owner of the Washington Spirit. I was not a fan of him at all, and I feel like these new owners got off to a little bit of a rocky start with me, but I think they have started to doing things like this make me, happy as to sort of the direction they're taking with the club and the support they're giving to the players, which is important. And hopefully they can sort of build out a winner this year. There's a lot of talent coming into this team. Roosevelt looks all the bit more dangerous. U.S. playing in the She Believes Cup right now, and she's playing pretty much at the top of her game. So I'm going to be really, really excited to see her play for the Spirit this season. And they're gonna open up at Audi Field. I think their first game. I think on the 18th
They
of
are
April. So
on national television against Olympic Lyon Reign or whatever the hell they're calling themselves
I
now.
think
OL Reign.
I think it's just OL Reign. Reign is what they're calling it. That's
Silliness.
that's a little disappointing.
Silliness.
It it's disappointing. It's not disappointing that there's somebody willing to spend money on a team in the league. That part's all good, but just the making them the OL Reign and not sort of at least trying to represent it to the city is where they're playing. Even though I guess they're playing in Tacoma, so it's not like they can't really call themselves Seattle Reign anymore. So but a little disappointing, but I think it's good that they have the ownership in the league. So I hope the Spirit don't get bought by like Chelsea or something like that, and they change them to like Chelsea Spirit or something like that.
Chelsea has their hands full with their league handling business at the moment, so they're good. Also, just sort of the preseason roster announcement came out for Spirit, so no real surprises there. It's a young team, lots of draft picks coming in that appear to have an opportunity to really make the team out of camp and really make an impact, particularly now with Matthews going on leave. There are 1, 2, 3 college draft picks at the forward position and a non-roster invite as well. So I think this is gonna be a lot shaking out here in the next couple of weeks. Ted's finding this out at the same time as all of you are, but I have a staff, Washington Spirit staff person that we're going to be speaking to in the coming weeks about the season to do a preview. So again, we're going to definitely ramp up our coverage, and we're going to have a lot more than we have had before. So we're excited to be able to do that. We've already done that with Loudon. We've already had a coach interview with Loudon, and I was able to watch an entire game of Loudon and give analysis of it. So we are already ahead of the 8 ball from that perspective. So Spirit, you're next. We're gonna get that cooking too.
Exactly, and we're gonna try to cover all the teams that we can. We got the Olympics coming up for the women's team. We'll definitely be talking about that. That should be fun to watch. Hopefully the coronavirus doesn't kill that, because that would be very, very sad to see. But yeah, we're gonna be covering the team. We're gonna be talking about the team. Good Lord, I'm looking at a picture of like Christian Pulisic from like when he was a kid, and he looks I don't know where I found this picture, but he looks exactly. There's literally you look at this picture, he has not aged like a bit. He looks exactly the same.
He's got a very grizzled beard going on right now since he's been off the field for
he's trying to look a little older. He's trying to look a little older.
Aren't we all, until we don't want to anymore?
Exactly.
That's what we all do. So I think with that, do you want to wrap the show up in a bow here, Ted?
Yeah, let's wrap it up.
So, folks, if you were to go to rfkrefugees.com now, that's us now. We own that. Right now, it currently points to our Patreon page, which is exciting because we now have figured out what we're going to do with Patreon. So if you're listening to this right now live, good for you. There's a few of you doing that, but that's not most of you. So what's going to happen is we're going to do this live show, theoretically start taking calls, theoretically start taking live comments as they come in. We'll get better at that, I'm sure, folks. But Tuesday, we'll have the show up on all of your podcast destinations that you like. And then we're going to have video up that we can actually edit down and see if there's anything good that came out of this. That's a to be determined. If there is, then that'll be up sort of Thursday and Friday. Ted and I are going to try to do a quick, depending on where we're at. This is the only part of this that's sort of flexible. Is that if there's a possibility for us to do a quick post game chat, like 5-10 minutes after the game, go live, vent our spleens, which is the most likely scenario out of a post-game situation. Ted will be very mad. I will be very mad, and we'll talk about it real quick, and then we'll throw it up on our Patreon as well. But that's what we're doing here. So the idea is that if you are a Patreon person, you're going to get access to the full exclusive interview that we're going to be doing tomorrow. We're releasing probably Wednesday with our friend from Cincy Soccer Talk, that kind of stuff. So you're going to get that first, and then you're going to sometimes get that only. So if it sounds interesting to you, to do that, we would love it if you would join us on there, patreon.com, or you can just go to rfkrefugees.com and join us at a tier that makes you feel comfortable. Well, may I recommend the $5 tier? It's a good tier. Other things, if you have not somehow followed us on Twitter, I don't think that's possible. I don't think we have any listeners that don't follow us on Twitter, but at RFK Refugees on Twitter. We're on Facebook for some reason. We also continue to have, which was a surprise to me because I forgot we had it, we still do have a Discord server that we used to use more, and we're gonna use more going forward. We'll have the link for that in the show notes for this podcast that's coming up tomorrow. And I think that's it. I think that's really where we're trying to make this thing a little bit more regular and predictable. We've got some exciting things in the works for episode 100, which is coming up super duper fast. So be excited for that. I think longtime listeners will feel rewarded for seeing the growth over 100 episodes if everything comes off. And if not, even if it doesn't, then it's just me and Ted doing our thing as we have done 99 other times before. So it's you can't lose.
Yeah, man, I can't believe we're about to get to episode 100. I really
A lot
do.
of episodes.
Well, yeah, and just the growth we've had on the show. We talk about it a lot, but I mean, it's amazing just to see the growth and what we've been able to produce and the comments we get and everything. So thank you all again so much, and thanks to our Patreon subscribers. We're trying to figure out a way to make this worthwhile for you. So we hope you enjoy the interview with Cincy. I think I'll try to do kind of what I did with the Colorado interview. We'll talk about the game coming up, and then we also kind of do a deeper dive into I love talking about sort of the culture and the status of teams and kind of there's a lot to talk about off the field with a lot of these MLS teams as well. So I think it's an important conversation to have. So and I think there was one Patreon that requested a private RSS feed. I will be working on that to get you that. So stay tuned for that.
Also, I want to make sure that I was going through, I'm mailing some of our longtime Patreons some swag today. And I just wanted to thank individually Greg Koch, who has been with us from the beginning. He's been a very generous